Hello, and welcome to another episode on Uninvited Opinions. This is the tournament review on the Women's T20 Challenge. So, as you would know, this was a very short tournament conducted in Sharjah alongside the ongoing IPL tournament. There were three teams: Velocity, Supernovas, and Trailblazers. The format of the tournament meant that each team played one, and the top two teams played each other in the final. So, let's take a quick look at how the league phase went. In the first game, the Velocity took on the Supernovas, and it was a tight finish, which the Velocity won in the last over, thanks to some late order hitting from Suni Luz and Sushma Verma. In the second game, which happened the immediate next day, Velocity took on the Trailblazers and unfortunately were bowled out for a very paltry 47, thanks to some excellent spin bowling from Sophie Ecclestone, and the Trailblazers knocked it out in just 8 overs. And the final league game was between the Trailblazers and the Supernovas, which was again a close game, which the Supernovas won with by 2 runs in the final over again. So it was a tightly contested league phase. And then in the final today, it was between the Supernovas and the Trailblazers. The Supernovas led by Harmanpreet Kaur and the Trailblazers led by Smriti Mandhana. Trailblazers batted first, and they looked set for a great total, especially when Smriti Mandhana was going great guns at the top of the order. There were some useful contributions from Deandra Doughton as well as Richa Ghosh. But once Mandhana fell, the rest of the batting unit just failed and couldn't sort of keep up the pace, and it felt that they ended up with a subpar score heading into the mid-innings break. There was a good bowling comeback from the Supernovas, led ably by Radha Yadav with some fantastic loopy left-arm spin. But when it came to the Supernovas' turn to bat, it just showed how challenging a pitch it was to bat on, and they never really got going. Harmanpreet Kaur tried, to bat ably and made a fighting 30. But outside of that, there were not a lot of contributions from the rest of the batting unit. And for the Trailblazers, it was another fantastic bowling effort with Salma Khatun taking 3 wickets, ably supported by Deepti Sharma with 2 very highly priced wickets to make a dent in the Supernovas chase. That meant that for the first time, the Trailblazers lifted the Women's T20 Challenge title, and Supernovas were consigned to their first ever tournament defeat. They were the defending champions. They won it for the past 2 times, but this year we had a new champion. So, Nax, it is a very brief tournament, but your thoughts on the tournament overall?
First of all, a very good initiative by BCCI to have managed to stage this tournament alongside the IPL. First of all, it ensures that the viewers are tuned in. They are used to the dose of cricket that they get every day. So there will be good viewership. And the second thing is that given the pandemic around the world, the women's cricket had suffered specifically had suffered a big dent. Some of the tours had got cancelled, so a lot of these players hadn't had any game, and therefore to come out and been given an opportunity to showcase their talent in this format, although it was a very condensed tournament, was a good way to go. And I felt the teams actually showed what they are capable of, and I think it is only paving the way for a much longer tournament, probably more teams participating in future, hopefully paving way for a women's IPL. As a condensed format, it presented a lot of ebbs and flows. We had 3 teams, each actually ending up with a victory each, and the finalists had to be decided on the basis of net run rate. There were come from behind victories. There were close to 10 wicket wins as well. So we got to see a lot actually in this short duration.
Absolutely, and probably the one thing that a lot of people might have missed is the fact that there were no big hitting big hitting games in this tournament. But I for one didn't certainly miss that, because we've got to take a couple of things into consideration. If you look at where these games are being played, they were being played at Sharjah and on the same wickets on which the men's tournament has already taken place. So those wickets were already tired. Secondly, a lot of the power hitters are actually currently playing in the Women's Big Bash League as well. So that meant that you were expecting to see games in the region of 130, 140, and plus I should also compliment the bowlers who beautifully exploited the conditions here and made scoring very difficult. Not only did they bowl well, but they also took a lot of pace off the ball. And something that you were mentioning, earlier, it was brilliant to see a lot of these spinners come into their own, especially Indian spinners. There was a lot of, accurate bowling. There's a lot of flight given to the ball. There were a number of deliveries which were bowled in the low 60s, which meant that there was really no pace for the batsman to sort of work with and get those big boundaries. So that was really fantastic to see.
Yes, a special mention for the eventual player of the series, Radha Yadav. She bowled a spell, taking 5 wickets today. So it was the first fifer in the history of women's T20 challenge. And even in the previous game, which they managed to defend the total against Trailblazers that saw them get into the finals. She also bowled the final over, defending a very paltry score. So a great talent to nurture going forward. We already have seen how Poonam Yadav has shown on the world stage in the women's T20 and the World Cup 2 years back. Now I think having Poonam Yadav in the middle overs, one leggy and one orthodox left arm. My God, this actually reminds me of the 70s Indian men's bowling attack, where it was the spin quartet. So this is no less than that. A very skillful, crafty, loopy spin bowling from both ends. I thought the key to slow bowling is not about being slow, but about being able to get that flight and the dip. And I thought low 60s, mid 60s, that speed, they were able to put enough revolutions on the ball to allow the ball to dip and still deceive the batters there. So it was a very pleasing sight.
Yeah, and a special mention for two innings that were played in this tournament. One by Chamaria Tapatu in the final league game, where she played for the Supernovas against the Trailblazers and scored a fantastic half century. And today's innings by Smriti Mandhana again, which was on a slowish pitch, but these two these two players, their batting was just a cut above the rest, and it was a brilliant viewing. We both know they're both left-handers. We both know that they're hard hitters, but there's also a certain elegance to the way that they play, which makes it really pleasing to watch, especially when they play those inside out lofted shots over extra cover. Wonderful to watch.
Yes, I think these are the kind of players. I don't know if they get to play in the women's BBL regularly. So such a league or an alternative to the women's BBL would be a beautiful place for the world to see these players showcase their talent. And the fact that the more the opportunities these players get, the more people get to know about their game and they start enjoying and viewing these games more in greater number.
Absolutely, and I think there's definitely a place in the calendar for a separate women's league based in India. We see the Big Bash League, the women's Big Bash League being quite successful, the Kia Super League in the UK being quite successful, and at this point in time, there's not enough conflict in the women's calendar as you see in the men's calendar, which could affect the availability of key players. So I think there's definitely a scope for a much longer tournament to be put in place, and to avoid conflicts with the other existing leagues, which will ensure the availability of other big name players and ensure that there's more competition available, and overall produce better cricket than what we've seen. But on the whole, it was a fantastic tournament. It produced those close, tight contests that we normally like watching, and definitely the skill levels are there. Even though the power hitting element is still absent in the women's game, that's not to say that it takes away anything from the cricket that's being produced. It still makes for fascinating viewing.
Yes, and also it allows some players of lesser known players or from countries that normally wouldn't find players playing in big leagues have an opportunity to come here and be a part of this tournament. So we saw people, two players from Bangladesh, Jahanara Alam and Salma Khatun, and Salma Khatun is such a veteran, and all her experience was had come to the fore in the finals, where she how beautifully she bowled and defended that total. And also we had the first player from Thailand play in this league, Nattakan.Chantam. So she didn't get to do much with the bat or the ball, but in the field she was absolute live wire.
Yeah.
Uh, 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 I think the save she made at the boundary, the acrobatic save, would probably rate among the top five, even if you put the men's IPL and the women's league together. It is just such a grand stage that BCCI has managed to provide to these players. So I think it can only get better going forward.
I absolutely loved watching this year's tournament, and here's hoping that we get a longer tournament next year. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to keep more videos coming your way, and we'll see you again with the coverage of the men's final tomorrow. Until then, stay safe.